And we are live again. Get that webcam going. Ah, beautiful. Beautiful. Flavorful. Beneficial. And it looks like the viewers are still coming in today. Some people are a little bit late for class. Not expecting that link to drop at the last minute, probably. That's on me. I will try to get that in. Maybe a little bit sooner. Still trying to figure out when I have to start it. Let me give you guys a question to begin with. How do you access the stream? I'm going to put a poll for it in Discord. You can also just answer me in text. How do you guys access the stream? Somebody asked in YouTube chat when the Patreon is going up. Let's just go with an OnlyFans instead. So for my subscribers. Right now you just have to like, comment, and subscribe if you like the video. I actually have only been getting like 4 likes per video, so what gives? You guys, you don't like your education? I should be getting, there are 15 people in this class, should be getting 15 likes. So it looks like most people access it via the YouTube subscription. I would prefer if you do it that way because it notifies you and you can just wait on YouTube and just refresh the page when class time is on. I did notice that sometimes you don't see that I'm live on YouTube until a few minutes in. So I've been trying to start it with the waiting room like 5 minutes early. But yeah, that is it's a problem with YouTube. I'm going to continue posting them to Discord, but since it looks like most people aren't coming into the announcements, I'm going to stop making those announcements in Canvas. Okay, we're going to continue talking about email today. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that little gear and switch the quality up to 4K or 2K, whatever it is, 1440p, it's 2K. Because we're going to be looking at some tiny font today. I probably should have screen grabbed these larger, but with all the redacting I had to do, I wanted them all fit on my page. So we are going to look at some good and bad email examples of some of the things that we talked about last time. I've tried to anonymize all of these. If I messed up anywhere, please don't bother these people individually. Okay. Yeah, just don't look into who these people are or anything. I'm not negatively commenting on any of them personally. All of these people are wonderful people. Sometimes they send a crappy email. I've sent many, many crappy emails. It's perfectly fine to send a crappy email once in a while. And I'm trying not to use anything that I'm involved in, anything where I'm on the thread here, because I feel like then I wouldn't really be qualified to comment. So I've tried to pull emails from my inbox and my wife's inbox, and only from the very recent past here that I think demonstrates some of the things we talked about last time. So let's get right into it. This email that we're starting with comes from up high. It comes from high-level managers at that facility, and the person who sends the original is a high-level manager, and he sends it, he or she, I'm just going to use he as my generic term, and I don't know who it is. I actually don't remember on this one, so I'm just saying he. But he sends it from himself to the leadership team. So there are a few leadership teams at this company. He sends it to those leadership teams. So this is an article from management to other members of the leadership team. And what is it about? Well, it's an article. They're linking to an article, and they're saying that they enjoyed it, and they're describing one of the points about it. Here's the article. I enjoy, there's a little bit of humor here. I'll read it out loud in case anybody can't see the text. Let me know if you can't see the text very well in Discord or YouTube chat. He says, I really enjoyed this article. Hopefully you get some value also, especially the point about resisting the urge to put quick fixes in place. It uses the term tokenism, which is a real thing. And then the article is 6 impactful steps companies can take to fight racial injustice and foster inclusion at work, and 8 pages follow. It's a very long email. That whole article is in there. So that's the first thing I want to point out. Ew, so long. Who's actually going to read that? Okay. And what you see as a response is that it gets forwarded by Ken to a bunch of other people. Then the HR manager gets it and forwards it to yet a bunch more people. The HR manager describes it as it's a good article and a quick read that gives an idea of what companies can do to be proactive with inclusion at work. So inclusion, obviously, a big issue right now. A lot of companies very concerned with it. And so this is the kind of thing that tends to circulate among managers, among people who are high up in the company, people who are probably well compensated, people who have a lot of responsibility. They tend to forward these kinds of articles to one another all the time. And sometimes they trickle down to the rank and file. This one goes out to middle management too, eventually, by way of the HR manager there that forwarded it. But I just want to point out that in most companies, the culture is that if you want to be a manager, if you want to be somebody who's leading a team, it's not enough to be technically skilled. It's also, you have to focus on what's important to the company. You have to be a bit of a game player. And you have to kind of be involved in these kinds of conversations and pass these kinds of articles along and comment on them. And that doesn't mean you have to engage in nuanced conversation about them. It just means that you have to forward emails along and say that you like them. And that typically suffices to get you in to the team there. And then we're going to go to the last one there. What's wrong with the last one here? What's wrong with the whole thread, actually? Because this is the subject up here where it says re. What's wrong with this whole thread? See if anybody can figure it out in Discord or YouTube chat. And then the email is, again, not a nuanced or particularly in-depth discussion. Just thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. I'm part of this conversation too. So I'm also a manager and I'm part of this conversation too. And coupled with, of course, the signature of the day, which is this big old lovely diversity and inclusion thing. This is that person's actual signature. So it's a very large block. And then they have down there the diversity and inclusion one that is almost half the size of their original signal. So again, their original signature. So again, showing that this is important to them. There's no title. Yeah, that's what it is from the Discord chat. So the godless heathens who sent this email forgot to put a title. What greater sin can there be in email? And somebody in the YouTube chat said that this is a huge signature. Again, managers have huge signatures, the majority of them. Almost everybody in this thread, I cut their signatures, but everybody but the original sender, who is one of the highest, has a giant signature. All right, so the point is that once you get a nice title, you want to share it, and then you want to let people know all 7 ways they can contact you, all the causes you're involved in, your LinkedIn, all that great stuff goes into your signature once you are a hotshot manager. So that's kind of an insight into how managers talk. If you want to be a manager one day, start talking like a manager so that you too can be a manager one day. How do I get to the next one here? Page down, enter, space. Oh, come on. Usually there's a nice little arrow there, but I guess you don't get it in full screen. So let me go with a fake full screen. So I can still get that arrow. All right. Okay, here's one from my inbox, obviously, because it's related to John Carroll. And what is the grave sin that has been committed here? What's the problem with this one? Does anybody see the problem with this one? What is wrong with this email? Not necessarily a huge problem. It's not something that I'm actually going to be upset at over or anything. It's, yeah, the title is not descriptive. It's worse than not descriptive. It's clickbait, right? This title is clickbait. In case you missed it, they're trying to ask me to click it because they think that I'm going to be interested in, because they'll think that I missed it, or I'll think that I missed it, and then I'll click it and go, no, I don't want to miss whatever it is. It's clickbait. And does it justify its clickbaitiness? Not at all, right? Because nothing in here is something that I would be interested in, actually. I don't know about you guys, but I do not attend webinars ever. Yeah, I don't think I've ever attended one, and if I did attend one, I don't think it would be very productive for me. So the webinar was not an in case I missed it. Anything else wrong with this email? Maybe a little bit more abstractly. So the subject is clickbait. Anything else wrong here? I know I'm not going to say who sent it. Only that it is somebody that's... Well, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to say anything about who sent it. Just that they're at John Carroll and tangentially connected to me in some way. No signature, or I might have cut it. I cut out all the signatures for anonymity here. So in this case, they didn't sign off or anything. So they just used their standard signature. So they didn't say thank you or whatever. Somebody said too wordy. That's pretty much my problem with it. My problem with it is it jumps to a few different topics. So the first part, it's talking about a webinar. Okay. And then in the next couple paragraphs, they talk about whether or not we're going to be virtual next fall, preparing for face-to-face, a bunch of other important things that really should have been in their own email. Those might even be flagged as important because that's information that I'm actually interested in. So if I had used my brain's summarize function and just looked at that first paragraph and gone, not for me, click on out, I would have missed the actual important info in the second and third paragraph. That's not entirely connected to that webinar or whatever. So there's some really meaty, important information there about whether or not we're going to be face-to-face. That just got left out of the subject and didn't get included in the first one. So someone's reporting no sound. Let me see if I get sound in mine. Anybody else getting no sound? Obviously, if you weren't getting any sound, you wouldn't hear me ask this. Okay, never mind. It was just you being dumb. Okay. Not a problem. It happens to the best of us, and then also to you, apparently. Okay. Continuing on to the next one, then. So, change of subjects and too wordy was another one of the problems there. Come on, where'd my arrows go? This thing. They just vanish. You know what? This is what I get for using Windows Picture Viewer instead of something else. That was my bad. Okay, what is wrong with this one? This is an email that goes out to the whole faculty. So this is everybody. So it's like 200 plus people are getting this. What's the problem with this one? Also interesting info for the cybersecurity class. We were actually going to go over this particular cyber attack anyway, and it's cool that it got mentioned by our, I guess I can say this is from someone in John Carroll IT. Some of you probably got this too. But what's wrong with it? It's titled Important Security Announcement. It reads, Dear members of the John Carroll University community, as we prepare for, etc. So somebody said that a title doesn't match the email in the sense that it's not an announcement. Well, it's kind of an announcement, but yes, it's not really announcing anything. It's more of informing about the risk. It's not announcing an event or something, which is where you would kind of expect the word announcement to be used. My main complaint with this is the use of that word important. Is this important to me? No, not really. Do I know not to click suspicious things? Yeah. Is the fact that it was marked important likely to change anybody's mind? Not really. Is this more important than the other 20 emails in my inbox that day? Probably not. It's actually probably kind of far down on my list. And that's even as a cybersecurity person, I don't find it particularly important. So this is one of those ones where I feel like the word important was just abused. Look at the salutation here, though. Dear members of the John Carroll University community. That's a nice salutation. It's very formal. It describes accurately all of your recipients. I like it. The only thing I would maybe omit is the word dear. It's not necessarily, important, but if you're trying to be more formal, if you're trying to refer to people as a term of endearment, then dear works very well there. So Another thing that I don't like is that the parts that are bolded, generally when I see bolded parts in an email, those are the parts I read, and those are the only parts I read. So if I apply that strategy here, I read ransomware attacks, this is real and it is happening right now. If you are not sure, don't click. Not a ton of info if that's the only thing you get out of it. So you actually did need to read the internal text to actually get the message here. So there's a weird kind of formatting there. It also tells a fairly long story. It tells the story about the University of Utah, how much money they spent. It's good. It's a nice cautionary tale, but it makes this email pretty long. It's basically 4 paragraphs long. The last bit with platitudes about how we are the most important and best defense against these attacks, etc., etc. That's pretty good. But the summary, the action item, the point, is actually the last couple lines, right? The point is don't click things that are suspicious, but it doesn't get to that point until the last 2 lines. What they really should have done, I think, is led with don't click suspicious things, because that is the primary point. And then they could have justified it with all of these paragraphs of stuff. So those last couple lines being the main point, those should have actually been at the beginning. My takeaway from this, if I was to skim it like I usually would be that there's some ransomware attacks. Maybe there was a ransomware threat or something. This is real and happening right now, and don't click, which I wouldn't have gotten much from that. All right. Let's use the weird life hack here to get to the next slide. Okay. This is a great one, because it could come from any workplace. I don't even know if this is mine or my wife's inbox. Who knows what this is. Important. Upgrades, updates, quickie. Credit to, and then the person's name for this wonderful piece, and then a link to a presentation as a Google slideshow, rather than as a just attached slideshow as well, which I also find a little bit annoying, because this attached slideshow is actually only about 5 slides, so it actually could have been an attachment. There's no reason for it to be a link, but it's fine. Some people prefer links. Why is this important? I don't know. And it's actually clickbait too, because you don't know it's important until you actually look at the slide. It doesn't seem important because it's just a wonderful piece. I don't even know what it pertains to. Is it about cybersecurity? Is it about safety? Is it about teaching? Is it about governance? And then look at the change in formality between important upgrades, updates, and then quickie. Cute little word, quickie. No salutation, no sign off. It's fine if it's a brief little email, but this is definitely one of those ones that abuses the word important, right? What does it mean for this to be important? Well, I don't know. Upgrades, updates. So it turns out that this is actually about a Windows update, a Windows upgrade that they were doing. So it's actually not that important unless it messes with your computer for that day. And the bulk of the presentation is that if you get that pop-up that tells you it's time to update, you got to do it. Just go grab a coffee or something. Don't keep putting it off. Is that important information? Not really. I don't think. No. I don't see how one could argue that stop clicking dismiss for 5 minutes is important information. Eventually that update's going to get you. You're not going to sit there and put off Windows Update forever. Not in a corporate environment where it only gives you the options update now and dismiss for 5 minutes. That's aggressive. So that happens to be how this institution is set up. So there's no way you're escaping it anyway. That's not information you really needed. All right. Okay. What's wrong with this one? This one I'm going to give you guys a minute to look at, because this one has some really good aspects and some really bad aspects. So just point out what you think is right about it, what's good, and then what is wrong about it. What is good here and what is not so good. What is good here? and what is not so good. Someone points out in YouTube chat that the instructions are very detailed, and that's definitely something that works in this email's favor. Someone else pointed out that the bullet points are nice. Also agree. Great use of bullets, really concise highlights of all the relevant information. It splits it up. The eyes are different lines, so different machines. So it splits it up by eyes, which means you can immediately look at the info that's relevant to you. Just find the bullet point that belongs to you. Is it I1, I2, I3? Where do you work? Just look at that one. You know right away what's going on. Someone mentions that the second paragraph sentence is a slog to read. The second paragraph sentence has a lot of info. Each board has red area, locks, black lock for lockbox, key box, all keyed alike. I have spare keys, group lockbox, individual coder, lockout procedures, and coder PM lockout forms, pre-populated with lockout points. Read that 6 times. You're probably still not going to know what it means. I definitely don't know what it means, and I'm pretty familiar with all the terms used here. Which brings us to the terms. What is a PM lockout? What is a PM lockout? Is that a nighttime lockout? Does it mean PM in the evening? Is that afternoon to midnight? Is that what a PM lockout is? I don't know. So remember to not use acronyms that everybody won't be familiar with. So in this case, I know that some people are probably not familiar with all the acronyms here. What other acronym could be a problem here? And what do you think it stands for? As an outsider, what other acronym's an issue here, and what do you think it stands for? Yeah, Lodo, the one in the title. So what is Lodo for coding? Lodo for coding. Not coding, by the way. Coating. This comes from the coating line, where they coat the tape. What do you think a Lodo is? You are free to Google it. And come back to me with what Lodo is. This is a very important buzzword right now in the safety industry. Yes, somebody got it in chat. It is lockout, tagout. If you've worked in any kind of manufacturing job or any job where somebody has to poke something important, it's going to be lockout, tagout. And that means that you either lock out the machine so that it can't be used, or you put some sort of tag on it to indicate that you are in it. If anybody removes that tag, they probably get fired because that is mad bad. So think high voltage machine, somebody poking their hand inside it, they've either turned it off or they've put a tag on the switch that turns it on so that it can't be turned on unless you cut that tag, or it shouldn't be turned on if you see that tag on it. If somebody violates that process, that's usually instant termination because that's how people get killed in manufacturing. So lockout, tagout, they could have used that term again in a couple places. So where they said in the first sentence that provide the tools and documentation to, and no one pointed out, by the way, consistency, but again, fine, because there's not a high standard for grammar in email. We all know that it means consistently. No one's going to ride you for this kind of mistake. It didn't detract from the message at all. So to consistently follow the lockout procedure here, they could have used the lockout tagout procedure instead, or loadout procedure instead. But here they're referring specifically to the locks in this email. This email is only about the locks, and that's why they've switched terms. So this could be like changed perhaps to lockout instead, so that everybody is better on the same page and there's no acronym wizardry. All right, so the second sentence was a little bit too wordy. Any comments on the latter parts? Any comments on these ladder instructions? Yeah, there's a request from YouTube. There's a request for feedback, and then it doesn't really say how to give it. So the assumption is you might respond to this email, but maybe not. And a problem is that they're asking for feedback way down there in paragraph 4. The important info was obviously in those bullet points. The word spaghetti in the second paragraph probably made everybody stop reading. And so a lot of people probably just glossed over it and didn't get to the part where there is actually a call for action. There is a call for feedback. So if you want feedback, if you want the other person to do something, lead with that, because in this case, most people probably would have overlooked the fact that something was requested of them. Someone also mentions that it should mention the training sooner. Everyone is trained and should have a blue personal lock. The September safety training will cover an overview of the lockout procedure for all employees as a refresher. There's no action being requested there. That's just informative. It's kind of off topic, but it falls in the same domain, so I don't think there's any particular problem with that, and it doesn't really need to be moved up because there's no action required there. All right, so they could have moved up that request for feedback a bit in order for it to appear first, so people will actually read it. Any other comments before we move on to the next one? And then I guess I'm going to do a poll for this to rate it overall. Overall, is this good, bad, or meh? Alright, no other comments. I'm going to move on to the next one while you guys are voting. Bring back my arrow. So all the votes are for meh, and a bunch of non-committed people. Yeah, sure, it's meh. But overall, I'd say it's good. It got the point it needed to get across. This is a thread between somebody who has a newborn baby and somebody who works third shift, which is why I left the times in there. I left the times in there also to show you that email is not urgent and it is very asynchronous. This conversation happens and the issue is resolved over several days at all kinds of hours of the day. So it begins at 4:40 in the morning when somebody who is on third shift indicates that the truck's sump pump was sampled at 4:30 in the morning, so they sent it just 10 minutes after that happened, really nice and prompt, and then they indicated that the samples in the fridge were ready to pick up. They signed off with thank you, which is great. We haven't seen a ton of salutations so far. Most people have omitted their signature. Again, that's fine. Most people usually omit that sign off, that thank you or whatever, especially after the first email in their thread. But here we see somebody has sort of a specific request and they say thank you. The request in this case is just to note that this sampling happened and the samples are in the fridge, an implication that the person on the other end is supposed to do something about that, right? They're not just telling them that for giggles. So the improvement that could have been made here was maybe to tell this person what they're supposed to do. But in this case, the person on the receiving end knows what they're supposed to do because it's their job. And so here you get into a weird cultural element that if the person on the other end knows what they're supposed to do with some info, it actually comes off as condescending if you tell them what they're supposed to do, right? So there are all kinds of fancy cultural considerations to make when you're talking to other people. This is one of those instances where you just provide somebody information and realize that since they're probably competent at their job, they're going to know what to do with it. Then the person on the receiving end asks, did we discharge this? It's waste, it needs to be discharged. And then they have a sign-off signature, so they have the thank you message baked into their signature, which is okay. Some people choose to do that, but I would prefer not to because it looks kind of weird here. Did we discharge this? Thank you and have a safe and productive day. All right. It also makes the statement a little bit more hollow. It's kind of a platitude at that point, right? That message comes at 3 in the morning, almost 4 in the morning the following day. All right, so again, observe that almost 24 hours have passed between these two emails. And then later that day, so 7, 8 hours later, the third shift fellows probably getting off at this point, or nearly getting off, because they would go home around noon, 1, something like that. No, not yet. We've received no confirmation of the results yet. Are we okay to discharge it? And within a couple hours, yes, you are good to discharge it, looks like. And then somebody else only emailed those results, so the test results that let them know whether or not they're okay to discharge this waste or it has some sort of contaminant in it. They only emailed me and didn't send to anyone else on accident. So this references to another email that somebody sent, but didn't send to everybody that they were supposed to. So they either forgot to CC the person that's responsible for the weight discharge or whatever. So this is a good way to handle it when someone else is missing an email thread that they should have. The other option here would be to forward those quality results to the person responsible for the discharge here, right? But this works because it communicates all the information that the person on the other end here needs. If they would have forwarded that sample report, that would have been too much information. Actually, all this person wants to know is yes or no, are they good to go? And so in this case, just telling them yeah, and then providing an explanation for why it didn't happen sooner is more than sufficient. And so they respond with great thanks, and then they reply to their own email after the waste is finally discharged the following day at 3:30 in the morning. So discharged to whatever the disposal is. So any comments on this email? Is this a good exchange? Is this a bad exchange? I'll do another poll. So just rate both sides. Is this a good exchange of information? Notice this happens over 4 days, basically, so Monday through Thursday. Most people are rating it good. I would say it's good. I think everybody got what they wanted here. I think the ambiguities were resolved. And nobody did anything particularly formal. People thanked each other. It gets the job done, but people need to check their inboxes more often, is the comment I got. Yeah, people probably should, but remember, one of these people is on third shift, and one of them is on first shift, but has a newborn baby. So the amount of overlap between the third and the first shift workers makes it so that generally there's a 1-day lag on any response, unless one of them is up when they shouldn't be, because the third shift person goes home and goes to sleep when the first shift person comes in, and the first shift person goes in and goes to sleep when the third shift person comes in. And so email is great for communication between shifts, right, or asynchronous communication in general. And yes, it could have been worked out quicker, but this was a low urgency problem, right? It didn't need to be discharged immediately. If it was high urgency, then what the original person would have done was just give them a call, and it probably would have been resolved same day. So it's good that they were able to do this by email, because it took probably much less time to write this thread than to resolve it by phone, which is very inefficient. You know, talking on the phone takes quite a while. And then it would have been several phone conversations, because they still would have had to rope in that third party who actually did the sampling and everything, and would have taken quite some time. So I think this is a good exchange overall, a good example of using email to solve a problem. Okay. Here's one that obviously comes from John Carroll again. All right, again, this goes out to all the full-time faculty, so lots of people, a couple hundred people at least, or something like 160 probably, plus some administrators maybe as well. But it's titled FC Meeting Invitation. What is an FC? Well, the people who had refers to, probably no. And then what this email does that I like is that it defines it right there at the beginning. It's faculty council, and they capitalized both words, so we know that's what FC is. But they could have just written out faculty council. Somebody mentioned that it's bold of them to assume that we are all friends. I agree. Hello, friends is a strange introduction. It's odd. I wouldn't use hello, friends. It's also odd that they didn't capitalize friends. Again, low requirement for grammar, but still. Yeah, it's bold to assume we're friends. We're not friends. I don't even know this person. Never met him, so I don't think we're friends. Maybe we would be, but don't know each other now, certainly. So the faculty council meeting is tomorrow at 2 p.m. In a small victory, it is the first meeting of the faculty council that was scheduled back when I sent the list of regular meetings in May. That asks me to refer back to something in May to see when they scheduled the other meetings? Or is this informing me of something? I'm not sure. What's the meaning of this line? I don't know. I think it's just kind of to shoot the shit, because I don't really know what I'm supposed to get from that, right? It is the first meeting of the faculty council that was scheduled back when I sent the list of the regular meetings in May. Is that like a passive-aggressive hint that I should have checked my meetings? I don't know. All right, so the invitation is below. Helpful. Good. It took a little bit of a while, a little bit of text to get to the invite. Certainly don't like that. If you're inviting somebody to a meeting, I hope that link is as prominent as it can be. Now, we know that the Zoom links give you this giant block. So the redacted block here is the huge block for the Zoom meeting, where it shows you how you can call in from every different nation on Earth and the link and all that stuff. So I sort of forgive them to that extent. It's hard to get that block on the top because of the formatting. And then, yes, someone already pointed out that that is the Zoom meeting invite, but part of it is also their signature. And this is somebody, again, who is responsible for a variety of different things. They're relatively high up in the institution, so their signature is massive. It contains a list of all their roles, all the different ways to contact them, the platforms they're on, and then a bunch of other junk. So it's a very long signature, too. And that's a recurring thread you'll see, is that the middle and upper middle and even upper managers have gigantic signatures. If you want to play like the big boys, stuff your LinkedIn and all your job titles and everything you've ever done since grade school apparently into your signature, because that's how the big boys do it. Best wishes. A strange salutation, but or a strange sign-off message, but it's fine. Best wishes is a good one. In the same category as things like regards and sincerely. It's formal, not too formal, and doesn't really mean anything. It's just a nice platitude to say goodbye to one another. The agenda and the meetings, the agenda and the minutes of Friday's meeting are attached. So did they attach them? Yes. All right, that's great. And look at how they named the attachments. Are those good names for attachments? Did they do a good job here? I think it's pretty clear that they did, right? They called them FC Minutes, they dated it. They called it FC Agenda, they dated it. I would rather have a PDF than a docx. I would rather have text as well. But overall, pretty good. Pretty well done. I think this is a good, informative email. It has one little mistake in terms of rambliness and a weird intro, but I like this one. And then the use of the acronym as well is a little odd. But again, not too unclear. What's unclear here is, do I have to attend this? So let's put that to a vote. Do I have to attend this? It's already over, but based on what you see here, do I have to attend this? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. If you would like to, then also comment in the chat why you think whatever you answered, yes or no. Do I have to attend this? Most people voted no, they think I don't have to attend this. They have a minute stock, so why bother is one of the answers in YouTube Live. That's certainly my opinion, but a minority opinion indeed. So yeah, if they're going to give me minutes anyway, why attend the meeting, right? I can just read the summary. It's like reading the cliff notes on other people's conversations. That's great. This is actually an optional meeting. It doesn't say that anywhere. It's optional for me, the recipient. There is a faculty council that is supposed to attend, but for me, who's not on that council, it's completely optional. In fact, most people who aren't on the council don't attend, and they're not really supposed to. So yeah, it doesn't clarify that at all, that this isn't really something that I'm supposed to attend or even something that I'm expected to attend. That's one problem that I have with it. And I get tons of meeting invites like this and similar to webinars and things like you saw previously that are totally optional. They don't indicate their optionality anywhere on there. So it is helpful if you're going to make a meeting to inform the person that you are meeting with whether or not they have to come or not. So I would have liked a little criteria here saying that people who are in the faculty council should expect to attend or something like that. And that would let me know that as a person who's not in the faculty council, I'm not expected to attend. So that's something that I think that could be improved here. If you're sending out big meetings like this to a broad group, let the audience know whether or not they need to show or not, how important it is that they show. Someone mentioned that the invite is too friendly and casual for me to think it's serious. That's true, but we're all friends at John Carroll, so we're always friendly and casual. And that's just our work culture here. We're all very friendly and casual in our email. So this is pretty typical for us to be friendly and casual. You might be at a company where meetings are more formal and less friendly, but for us it's perfectly normal to be casual and a little bit let's say curt and address each other as friends and whatever fun terms of endearment we choose to use that day. All right. This one really annoyed me. It cost me about 5 minutes of my life. Can anybody figure out why this email cost me about 5 minutes of my life? Why did this end up costing me 5 minutes of my life? I will note that it was sent out on Thursday. It mentions an event that happens on Friday. It happens at its scheduled time. This email does go out in the middle of like Thursday afternoon. I did get it on Thursday, but why did this end up costing me 5 minutes of my time, and how could they have done better? It does have a title. The title is Faculty Convocation. And again, this goes out to all the faculty. So this is another one of those broadcast announcements. Someone says, I didn't know if I was required to attend. I still don't. So that's another one of those things. But apparently I was. I did. So. But I didn't spend 5 minutes in existential dread wondering if I should attend or not. That's not the reason it cost 5 minutes of my time. Why might this have cost 5 minutes of my time? And that doesn't include the time I spent reading it, obviously. It's not that long. Did I not know what a convocation was, is the question from YouTube Live. I still don't know what a convocation is. And yes, that's part of it to an extent. I think it's like a meeting. I think it's like one of those things from Lord of the Flies where everybody gets a turn to hold the conch or something. I don't know why you would use that term. But I guess it has some historical value, so whatever the institution wanted to use. Again, this is a cultural thing. Apparently they've been convocating, whatever that means, for quite some time, and the term just stuck. So I'm not going to blame them for that. That's not necessarily what cost me 5 minutes of my time. Although it is bizarre. All right, so picture this. Okay, did I join the meeting thinking it was right when I got the invite? Someone asked. No, I can read. It says Friday, August 28th in bold. I'm not going to skip the bold text. The bold text was very well used here. It gives me the real important info. So again, I try to read only the bold, and only the bold here is faculty convocation, Friday, August 29th or 28th from 9 to 10:30. Perfect. I got all the info I needed from the bold text. I can ignore everything else. All right, so picture this. It's Friday. It's 8:50 because I like to get to these meetings a little bit early because I know Zoom always has some technical nonsense going on with it. So it's Friday. It's 8:50, and I want to get to this meeting. What do I do? I know I have convocation, whatever that is. It pops up in my calendar. Time to get convocating. It's 8:50. What do I do? Well, I search my inbox for my meeting invites. Someone asked, did the link work? The link did work. But what I do when I have a meeting is I search my inbox for meeting invites. This email is titled Faculty Convocation. It doesn't have the word meeting in it. So when I searched my email, I found nothing. So then I had to go to my inbox and find it manually. I knew the faculty convocation link was out there somewhere. I thought that the subject would have some reference to it, and it doesn't get to the invite link until quite a ways down. So the little invite preview, or the little email preview in your inbox also didn't show the link. So I spent 5 minutes hunting down the email that had the link to join the convocation, because it doesn't have invite link or meeting invite or anything related to the fact that the link is here in the title or in the first sentence. And so I had no idea where it was. There's a few other emails about the convocation that I opened first and leafed through, and those might have links too. And there are other emails about other meetings that popped up, and so I looked at those and then looked at those links, and those weren't it. And then finally I came upon this one and managed to get into that meeting at 8:55 or whatever, and made it on time. So I lost 5 minutes of my life because they didn't make it clear that there was going to be a meeting invite in this thing. All right, and so for us who get lots of emails, and I don't even really get that many, but for us who get lots of emails and have to search our inboxes for our meeting invites, this is annoying, right? So make sure that if there's a meeting invite in there, it's somewhere in the subject or in the first line of the body, so people know that it's a meeting invite and that they go there for their link. And that way, when they go to search their inbox, they find it quickly. Okay. Otherwise, I think this is a pretty good invite. It's got a good opening, a good sign-off, grammatically nice, and everything else is good. The only thing, other than the fact that they didn't mention that there was a meeting anywhere, that I would point out is that they kind of have a double sign-off, right? It's thank you for your attention to this matter. Best wishes. Both aren't really necessary. That's just writing more for the sake of writing more, right? Thank you for your attention to this matter is a fine close. Best wishes is a fine close. And thank you for your attention is also weird for a meeting invite, right? It's you haven't really presented a matter to me. There isn't any information here that I'm thinking about. It's a meeting invite. So thank you for my attention to what? Okay. I think this might be the last one. Maybe we have one more. Okay, looks like we have at least one more. Oop. And now I just figured out that mouse wheel goes to the next. Great. All the way at the end I figured that out. None of you knew that. Come on, mouse wheel goes to the next image in Windows Picture Viewer. Now you know. Action. New Cintas uniform sizing. Good subject, right? Because now I know that I have to do something. I have to open this and I'm going to have to do something. Let's see how fast you can figure out what you need to do. All right, so hello. Cintas will be on site at Building 5 this Friday to do the fittings for the new uniforms. I have created a sign-up sheet for time slots. Please go in and sign up for a 15-minute slot. So, okay, within the first sentence, I know, well, 2 sentences, I know what I have to do. So, great. Right away, they get to the point. They explain exactly what the recipient has to do. And then they go into some more information. Due to COVID restrictions, we can only have one employee trying on outfits at a time, so please do not miss your time slot. If you require different days' time due to your schedule, please reach out to me personally. I think that's a good enough description of what they need to do because it's going to be in their contact info. They can reply to the email. And then a link to the form that they have to use in order to sign up for their slot. So great, informative, gets to the point immediately, tells people what they have to do, and tells people right in the subject that this is an email where they have something that they need to do. This is an action email. One of the responses, hello, I sent this out to compounding and maintenance, but was wondering if we had settled on whether or not we were going to mandate FR clothing. Again, use of an acronym without defining it. What is FR? What is FR? All the people involved in this chain probably know, at least all the safety staff know, but the fellows that this goes out to are obviously just everybody, so all employees, and they might not necessarily know what FR is. What do you think FR is? Mandate FR clothing and coating due to the risk of getting flammable liquids on themselves while cleaning, as well as hooking and unhooking totes, hoses, barrels. I know some employees already opt to wear the uniform, the FR uniform, whatever an FR uniform is. And then somebody who is not here Friday, and you can take blank off the list. He works in Mentor now. This again is a decent response. It kind of derails the topic, but it's informative. It is addressed directly to the person who said that if you have a problem, address me directly. This person's problem is they're not here Friday. The problem is they don't really say what days they are there or what availability they have. Obviously, they're still going to need to get in for one of these fittings or something, so they should probably share a little bit more about their schedule other than that they're not there Friday. And then the information about taking blank off the list is good. Lets the original person again use that piece of information to take somebody off that spreadsheet, so now that they know that that person's not available. Alright, so they escalate that. Let me go talk to blank. I think right now it makes sense to proceed with compounding and maintenance and see how things go. Also, as the safety committee looking to send out a monthly newsletter for August, I'd like to get the stay in the zone kickoff info there. Alright, don't like that. Why is that a problem? What did this respondent do that's a little bit annoying? What was the problem there? What does this respondent do that's a little bit irritating? Change the subject, right? Someone says in live chat, they change the subject. They change the subject completely. They go from uniform fittings to is there going to be a monthly newsletter for the month of August? Just send a new email, right? Just send a new email. And they said that they are going to talk to somebody and then get back to them. Why not talk to them first? Well, this actually I don't have a problem with, because sometimes the person you want to talk to isn't available, and it helps if you let the other person know that you're planning to have a meeting with them at some point in the future. So you're not just ignoring their email and you're not just ignoring their issue. You are going to address it and you're going to talk to the person responsible. So sometimes it's nice to inform anybody to whom it concerns that you're going to have a meeting about something later, rather than having it and then talking to them, because then they feel like they've been ghosted for however long it takes you to talk to that person. The main problem here, I think, is that change of subject. Hey, our next newsletter will ho out in September. Oh no, they used ho instead of go. Like, not a big deal. No high requirements for grammar. Everybody knows that it's supposed to be go. We'll ho out in September as the team is focused on making the focused safety observation guide right now. What's the grammatical sin there? Well, obviously the double focused, that's confusing. But hey, again, low requirements for grammar, not a big deal. Okay, sounds good. I'd like to add an introduction about stay in the zone. I can help draft that info if you'd like. Again, total derailment of the subject. Now we're talking about the newsletter in September and stay in the zone. So if this person, either party, wants to find this particular email where this person volunteered for a draft, now they've got to search for an email titled Action New Cintas Uniform Sizing. So if I want to figure out when Billy Bob, and that's not their real name, first volunteered to help write the safety letter for September, and what exactly their question was or anything about this email, I've got to figure out that actually me and Billy Bob talked about that in Action New Cintas Uniform Sizing. So this is one of those really annoying pivots of subject that should have just been a new email in the first place. Hey, Yeah, that would be really helpful, as I know the team is going to be working on their sections on fall safety. So, hey, kind of unnecessary there, but perfectly fine as a greeting. A little informal, but if it's acceptable here, then it's fine, and it clearly is acceptable. So that part, that exchange itself isn't a problem. It's just the fact that they pivoted on the subject change there. Okay, see if there are any more. There may be one more. Geez, how many of these did I pick out? Well, you guys wanted examples last time, so you got them. All right, final draft of the slideshow. Are you sure? Are you sure it's the final draft? Are you sure? I hate it when people send out an email that says final draft, because inevitably the same thing always happens, right? They end up having a typo or a small change, and then it goes out, final draft for real this time. Send it out with the date, okay? Or send it out with a version number or something. Final draft is never necessarily final draft. There could be changes. In this case, it's the day before. There's probably not going to be any changes, but still, the committing to something being the final draft or the final copy or the final version or whatever is probably not a good idea, because you never know unless you're absolutely sure that it's the final version, because, for example, it's the one that's already happened or the one that's submitted. So if this was after that presentation took place, then send that final draft. And that's perfectly fine. But since this could still have changed, that was a bad move. Folks, good intro. Addresses a lot of people. This goes out to our department. This was for the graduation ceremony last semester. Here's what I think is the final draft. Again, see, it could change. So even they acknowledge that this is not necessarily the final draft. For tomorrow's award ceremony, and then a link. Again, you'll want to open it in PowerPoint. Again, you never told me to open it in PowerPoint. This is the first time I'm hearing that it needs to be opened in PowerPoint. Why again? No. Just say you'll want to open it in PowerPoint. And in fact, I don't remember being told to open it in PowerPoint before. That's new to me. Also not sure what the alternatives are. I guess I could open it in like Google Suite or Libre or something. Okay. During the ceremony, please be ready for your slides when they appear. Not bad. They put the action item fairly towards the front of the email. So this is what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm supposed to be ready for my slides when they appear. And then in particular, some bullets. Know which slides lead into yours. Know which of your students is receiving an award. The award certificate for each student is on a separate slide from their biographical information. Please keep your remarks short. The ceremony is already going to be longer than normal, and we really need to last no longer than 1 hour. I'm planning to start the meeting around 1:50. Please try to join a few minutes before 2 so we can start on time. Thanks. Any other comments on this? Anything else that might have gone wrong here? Any other problems this might have had? Related to drafting and version control and that kind of thing. What else might be a problem with this quote-quote final draft? It was ultimately the final draft, I'll say that. I'll give you hints. I looked for this presentation because I wanted to see it again a couple days ago, because I wanted to get some information actually for you guys for the senior design class coming up. So I looked for some of the information from this slideshow. And what did I get when I looked for this slideshow? What did I get when I looked for this slideshow? Someone mentioned 404. Yep, that's what I got. The link was gone, right? So they could have sent it as an attachment, because it's obviously a PowerPoint file. It's not even a sheet. It's something on their personal Google Drive. And of course, a month later, when I went to look for it, it was gone. And so now this thing has gone into the void forever. If I want it, I'll have to email that person again. I'm just not that interested in it. So this is something that should have been sent as an attachment, because otherwise now it's gone forever. Okay, so if it can be sent as an attachment, if it's small enough, That's usually the better move, unless you're dealing with somebody who has a size limit on their inbox. But if that's the case, then you might have time traveled to 2010 or whenever that was still a thing, because most people now have unlimited storage in their inbox, especially if their company subscribes to Google Suite or something like that. Is this it? Am I at the end? Oh, okay, it's an easy one. I don't even need to say anything, right? No subject. Need to retake test. Thanks. Terrible. This person should be ashamed of themselves. P-card paperwork for March and April. This is a great one. This is a really good example. Notice that I'm BCC'd on this one because this is private information. P-card is purchase card. And we all know that. Everyone who's a recipient here knows that. I got comments for that previous one that I should ban them. Yeah, that person's terrible. Terrible person. Okay. So this is a purchase card, so we all know what it is internally. We know that's our purchase card. We know that we need to submit some stuff whenever we make purchases with our work card. Hello, if you have P-card paperwork for March and April that needs to be turned in, please start working on it. So the action right up front at the beginning, I know what I need to do. I need to start working on my P-card paperwork. And then it tells me how to do that. It tells me that I need it by June 1st. It tells me that I have to scan it with your supervisor's signature or get an email from my supervisor saying they have reviewed and approved the months attached. I can also send the paperwork through interoffice mail. It's due by a certain date, email them. So perfect, informative email telling me exactly what I need to do and BCCing me on a sensitive matter because it's somewhat private, whether or not I've made a purchase on the purchasing card or not. It's not something that everybody should know, so just BCC everybody that's made a purchase so we don't all know who has made purchases this month. Great. Okay. Look at that block of text. Look at it. We're going to read the whole thing. It's going to take the rest of class. I'm just kidding. We're definitely not going to read this whole thing. What is this? This is a message from a high-level manager. So somebody who is pretty high up, right? And it's Stay in the Zone introduction. That's that safety program that was mentioned earlier. Last month, blah, blah, introduced our new safety program called Stay in the Zone. Words, 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 words. But what does stay in the zone really mean? Let me share a personal story that I think highlights just how powerful these 4 simple checks can be. I don't know what the 4 simple checks are, but here's a long story, right? It's actually a good story, I thought, but very long. I don't think most people got through it. Then we get to the 4 checks, so most people probably skip here. Check yourself, check your tools, check your surrounding, check your people. Cool, all right. And then something in all caps. Stop, think, say something. Okay, I'll do that. An overview of the Stay in the Zone program can be found here. There's a link. You'll hear more about this during the week. There's more? This is already 3 pages. What is this, a book? I have a job outside of email. Oh my God. Each of the next 7 weeks, we will be introducing different aspects of the program. A member of the PLT will share a personal story, another personal story, highlighting what Stay in the Zone means to them, along with a 1-page summary. That's 7 pages if I look at them every week of the topic. I just wanted to point this one out. It's somewhat humorous example of what high-level management does. They will, of course, generate a lot of paperwork. Look how long their signature is. And, of course, the boilerplate diversity and inclusion link at the bottom. So this was a interesting one, I thought, just because of its length. Overall, it's a good story. It's very well written. It's a good email. But did most of the intended audience probably read it? I don't know. It probably would have been better off being an attachment, and I think it probably would have served its purpose better if it was shorter. That was a heck of a read there, and we're going to get another 7 of these apparently, right? So that's a real buzzkill. Free binders. Hello, just a quick heads up to let you know there are several binders on top of filing cabinets that are up for grabs. Next time you're in the office, if you need a few, please take them. So if any of you guys need binders, they might still be there, because I don't think anybody needs binders. I like this email, straight to the point. I know whether or not to ignore it based on whether or not I need binders. I don't, so I ignored it. I don't need binders. Warmly, by the way, another great sign-off in the same category as regards or sincerely or that kind of thing. A nice, straightforward, formal sign-off. Warmly. Okay, and that's it for my samples. So in the last, I think we've got 10 minutes of class here. I'm not going to make this an in-class assignment. I will put this off till next time. But I'd like you guys to just form groups of 4 on Discord. So form up groups of 4 in those peer review channels. One of you will be a group of 3 because there are, I think, 15 people in this class. So 1 group of 3 and 3 groups of 4. And just say hi to each other and make sure your Discord is working, because next class, not just the next the senior design that's coming up in 15 minutes or so, but the class, the writing class next week, we'll do a quick little group assignment. So just hop into one of the peer review channels on Discord. Make sure there are 3 other people in there, except for the one channel that's only going to have 3 people total, and say hello to each other. Make sure your Discord works. You can hear each other and whatnot. Maybe play with screen sharing or something like that. So I will pop in there to check that all of you know what you're doing and it seems like all your audio is up to date and whatever. And that'll be it for class. Once you've verified everybody's stuff is working, then feel free to take your break until we get to senior design in just under half an hour. All right, so I will see you all in Discord now, and then see you all in senior design in a bit. So one more time, form groups of 4. One of you will be a group of 3 in the peer review channels in Discord, and say hello to one another and make sure audio is working. And I will pop in there and check on all of you as well. Okay, that's it for the stream for today then. So the stream is signing off. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon that doesn't exist yet. See you next week.